So the next question I have that we'll work on is, how do I determine if there's a need for the business I want to start? So for those of you who are out there thinking about, well, is somebody going to buy into what I have to sell or promote? And I'm actually producing a book camp. And one of the questions I have from some people is, well, I have this idea for a book. And you know, books can make you money. They can also build you credibility, and it can help people like survivors who feel they're alone, and so they want to share this information. But having said that, is that some people don't ever start that book because they believe somebody else already wrote that book, and this applies to business. What happens is they feel because somebody else wrote that book, they never get started because that's it. They've closed the door on it. Do you know if you walk into a Barnes & Noble or Borders Books, there's probably at least 10, 20 books of the same subject out there by different people? And let me say this, there's always somebody out there waiting and willing to buy that book that you have within yourself. There's always at least one. And in this global marketplace with the internet, you're tapping into billions of people, billions. So don't wait to get started. And has anybody heard the term SWOT, S-W-O-T? This is something you'll learn in developing your business plan. What it stands for is strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. And when you look at that, you're looking at your competitors, you're looking at the landscape of the marketplace, of where you want to go into business, and that will help you determine whether there's a need for it and what kind of challenges you can be faced with once you're out there with your business. So with that being said, Alan, if you want to share with us, what do you believe that on this question, how do you determine if there's going to be a need for your business? What did you do? Or did you fear that at all? Or there was no fear, you just went for it?
Well, my business is actually, consulting people to help them get into business. And the way I really recommend people think about it is look at the demographics and how they're changing, how they're impacting businesses, look at trends that are going on in the marketplace and how they're affecting businesses. And there are a lot of areas that even in a bad economy are growing. If you look at the aging population, there are a lot of senior businesses that are in vogue now, home healthcare businesses, which are very important. A lot of people would like to keep their parents aging in place and not have them in assisted living or nursing care. Bringing care to the home is a very important area to look at. There are a lot of service areas that are growing now. Business training, B2B businesses are very important, where small business owners are reaching out for help from other professionals to help them grow their businesses. So if you look around, there are pockets within the economy that are growing, even in a weak economy, that are ripe for new business launches. There are other areas that are always in vogue, even in bad or good times. Educational businesses, people always invest in their children. Pets, oddly enough, people always invest in their pets. So there are a lot of opportunities to tap into areas where there's always going to be a steady flow of opportunities. So I think if you just look around and see what's happening in the marketplace, it'll give you some clues in terms of like what kind of business areas might be strong areas for you to embark in.
I mean, I think the good news is, personally, I think in the past 100 years, there's never been a better time to start a business than right now. That whether you want to have an online or an offline business, the internet has disrupted every single sector and changed the way that everyone does business, which means these big entrenched players, the really powerful companies that used to dominate industries, now are kind of falling apart, which gives you the opportunity to start your own business and get in there. Kind of my personal story here was, I started this series of college guidebooks. They came out from Penguin, and we were one of the top 5 best-selling books, but we weren't the best-selling book. There were just better funded rivals out there. But we looked around and said, you know what? College information, you're charging for a finite amount of content in these books. If we go online, the traditional publishers wouldn't put anything online because they said if we put our stuff online, it's going to cannibalize the revenue stream from the print titles. So I said, you know what? We could put this online first. We could have far more information online than you could possibly have in a book. And by being the first ones to put that online, we became the dominant player in the industry, and we there's millions of students looking for college information every year, and we've had, even though we're a 2-year-old company, we've had millions and millions and millions of people come to our site, and we work with some of the biggest players in the industry now, McGraw-Hill, The Wall Street Journal, US News, USA Today. So I think for everyone out there, whatever it is that is your passion, whatever you're really good at, try to figure out how has this particular industry been disrupted by the internet, by the growth of mobile. Just look at how the economy has shifted over the past 10 years and then figure out how your passion has shifted and figure out, is there some disruption that's taken place where my idea can now take hold, where the dominant players have been unseated in some way, and I have some insight about a new way that the thing I'm passionate about can be done. And then you can go around. You can either try to start it yourself or you can raise money, but there's a lot of capital floating around out there by people saying, we recognize that there's a new way of doing things. We recognize that these traditional sectors have been upheaved, and we're willing to fund good ideas. So you may find yourself, even without a stellar kind of past track record of being an entrepreneur, just if you've gone to your job every day for the past 10, 20, 30 years, and now you have great operating experience and you have a great idea in a sector that's ripe for disruption, you may find someone who will give you $100,000, $1 million to $10 million. A friend of mine recently just came up with an idea, and 6 months later, he raised $10 million from venture capitalists. He'd never started a business before. He just had a good idea. He brought it around, and someone wrote him a check for $10 million to try this out. That sort of story, it sounds crazy. It actually is happening more frequently than you'd think. So if you have a good idea, really get behind it, and in your free time, try to pitch it around and see what people think. Because if you don't try, you'll never know, and if you do try, you could find yourself with a check for $10 million.
Thank you, Jordan. I want to resonate with that there are people out there who have money coming out of their ears and eyeballs they don't know what to do with. I mean, when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in your bank account, what's another million? So they're looking to invest their money to make even more money. So when you have a good idea, they're going to tune into a very particular radio station. You know what that one is, right? WIIFM, you heard of that? What's in it for me? So if you can convince them there's something in it for you, they've got to be convinced.